So this session is on learner autonomy. We're going to look at what it is and why it's important. By the end of the session, you should be more confident when implementing learner autonomy and adding it into your lessons. So before we go into the definitions of learner autonomy, I've got a quote here from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, who was a writer and aviator from France. He said, "If you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to gather wood, divide the work and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea." And the reason I love this quote is because it is in line with, I suppose, how I would view the value of learner autonomy. It's mainly motivational, trying to help our students, I suppose, have that spark when learning English. Here are three definitions of learner autonomy. I'm going to give you a minute to read them and think about the differences between them and maybe also how you yourself would define learner autonomy. Okay, you can start. Okay, so here are some parts within the definitions that I've highlighted. You can see in the first definition that learner training should be that of discovery. Often I've heard teachers and trainers talk about the need for students to be detectives and to look at texts and notice language, notice grammatical structures, notice what they know, what they don't know, and a lot of that is discovery. The next part is focusing on trying to find the answers to problems and trial and error. This is very much in line with learner-centered teaching as well, so the teacher acting as more of a guide and a facilitator, and the students' responsibility really is to try and solve the problems on their own through trial and error as well. So trial and error, especially in language learning, is crucial. If there are no mistakes made, then there's no real margin for learning. In the second definition, you can see that again we're talking about learners having control over their learning, so getting into that theme again of learner-centered classrooms, and also identifying strategies that they could be using in their language learning journey, so moving also towards study skills and also skills that they could use for life. So the skills that they are learning within the realm of learner autonomy are certainly life skills, things that they can transfer over into whatever they learn. And finally, Benson talks about the rights of learners within educational systems, again looking at this learner-centered approach. This brings to mind a one-to-one student. In all of our one-to-ones, the standard procedure is to discuss, obviously, with the student what they would like to focus on, what they would like to improve, and then we tailor our lessons around what they say. And it is very much their right to to have that choice in what to learn in a one-to-one lesson. So this is kind of speaking more broadly on the rights of learners and learner autonomy. We'll move on now to your ideal learner. So look at features of an autonomous learner. Think about maybe a student that you're currently teaching or one that you've taught before that maybe improved significantly and maybe they displayed certain behaviors that made you think that this person is more likely to learn than the average learner. So I'll give you 1 minute, you can start now. Okay, so you've now got your list of features. You can have a look at some suggested answers here. This is taken mainly from a talk that I went to in, I think it was 2019 or 2018, given by Vic Richardson, who's done plenty of research on what impacts learning the most. And he also relates that to learner autonomy. So if at this point, if you want to pause the video and have a look at the list, you can do. I'll briefly clarify anything here that maybe isn't so obvious. So the first few features are about taking control, of course, setting goals, which is something that at EC is very much at the forefront of a student's course. They can do it before they arrive, and they can continue planning and monitoring their progress throughout, of course. Going down towards the learning game. By learning game here I mean, I suppose, knowledge of how the school manages progress. So at EC, they know that every 4 weeks they're going to have a progress assessment, a tutorial, and they're going to discuss their learning every Friday. And if they achieve the score that they need to, the teachers think that the student is ready to move up, their attendance is strong enough, their weekly scores are high enough, then they will be moving to the next level. So that's the learning game. And then towards the end, we have these features of resilience and challenges and taking risks. Generally, for language learning, again, it can be a very vulnerable thing to be doing. When you're learning a language, you're kind of exposing yourself and feeling that you're in a situation where you'll be making plenty of mistakes, and you might be scared a lot of the time to make those mistakes. So that resilience and the approach of loving challenges is one that we can encourage in class. So why might we want to encourage this in our students? Plenty of reasons, but I've kind of put them into just 4 points. So certainly you can see an increase in motivation and confidence when we encourage learner autonomy in class. So discovering language for yourself and feeling empowered to be able to solve your own problems certainly provides you with confidence. Knowing what your goals are, knowing how to achieve those goals is very motivating. It makes classes more meaningful. By this I mean that it's another layer to add to your lessons. Instead of going through maybe exercise A to exercise B to C, etc. This is another layer of your teaching that you can add. So after every exercise, or maybe after a certain number of stages in a lesson, have a reflection stage, and that adds to your lesson. It makes it more meaningful. And as I mentioned earlier, it does give students skills for life. So by the end of the course, the students are not only achieving a certain level of proficiency or improving their English as much as possible at the school, but they're leaving with this sense that they've attained some skills that they'll have for life and can transfer over into other things that they learn. And the final point is it does save you and your students time in the long run.